Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. Well, I don't know if this is true or not, but there are several people on social media talking about the travails and tribulations that are taking place in Atlanta, Georgia, with this possible epidemic of new HIV cases that have propped up in Atlanta. That is very, very disturbing if these allegations are true, but I wanted to highlight a little bit of it and see what is going on. Here in the last few years, you're hearing about quite a few outbreaks of STDs in Houston, New Orleans, Atlanta, for example. And our health is our wealth, and that terribly concerns me. So let's go into a little bit of some of the statistics on Black folks and HIV and STDs. Well, Black Americans represent 13% of the population, but Black Americans make up 32.64% of all new STD cases in America. So we represent 13 to 15% of the populace. However, we also represent 32.64% of all new STD cases. So sometimes there is an alignment. If there's a high uptick in STD cases, or that HIV could be a component of that. So whether it's syphilis, gonorrhea, things of those nature, herpes, if one is out being somewhat reckless and not protecting themselves, having intimate relations with multiple people, even strangers, then you are sticking your fishing pole in a wade of water that possibly has multiple types of communicable diseases. But what in the world is going on in Atlanta? Atlanta reportedly sees 20,000 HIV positive cases in less than a year. And you have to remember that those are the ones being reported. What about the ones that are not being reported? People that are uninsured, people that are embarrassed about possibly having it and getting the proper treatment for it, or ignoring it. So you have the known and the unknown. And I say to you all the time, here in the future, the unforeseen will become seen and the unbelievable will become believable. The city of Atlanta is known for so many wonderful cultural contributions, and from television shows and music all the way to superb sports teams. Atlanta is usually in the spotlight in the United States, but this spotlight is not a good one. It is a dim one. However, in 2025, the city of Atlanta is in the news for a heartbreaking and dubious distinction. One TikToker has alleged that there have been about 20,000 HIV positive cases in Atlanta over an 8-month period. That is astounding. That is an epidemic. That's not across the country. That's in Atlanta alone. Before proceeding, consider this to be a trigger warning for those who have been affected by HIV and AIDS. Why all of a sudden have multiple social media users come forward to bring a spotlight on Atlanta and the numerous HIV cases, including personal anecdotes about contracting HIV in Atlanta? So there's even multiple videos on social media, on YouTube, where you're hearing women that have contracted HIV, and this is a very unfortunate and sad story. We talk about cancer all the time, the big C word, but HIV has not disappeared, even though the number of cases have gone down since the early 90s and late 80s, but it is still out there and is still prevalent. Is there a reason that such an astounding number of HIV cases have been documented in Atlanta over such a relatively short amount of time? Below, we report on the 20,000 HIV cases in Atlanta over the last 8 months, as well as what people are saying on social media about this terrifying statistical trend. And you have to remember, the CDC is based out of Atlanta. The CDC was just in the spotlight here recently, where a gentleman went on the Emory campus of the CDC, and there was a shooting. This gentleman ended up dying, the gunman on the Emory CDC campus, and allegedly he made comments that the vaccines were disrupting his life in a major way, and allegedly he wanted to take it out on the CDC. So that was in the news recently, right on the Emory campus. An HIV outbreak has hit the city of Atlanta, as TikToker user Shamar Alion notes in his video. Perhaps the most unsettling part of the enormous figure, the 20,000 positive cases of individuals who have contracted HIV, is that there is an untold number of individuals who are positive but have not been tested or treated. The scary part is not the number of ones we know, the 20,000, it's the people we don't know, Mr. Alion explains. It's the people who don't get tested, won't get tested, and will never get tested. That's going to keep passing this disease on. While Mr. Alion isn't trying to dissuade Atlanta residents from continuing to live in Atlanta, he does have a word of advice for those who live and love Atlanta. And what do you think? No different than gun violence that is taking place in many of our cities, homelessness, the opioid crisis. What does this do for tourism in Atlanta? What does it do for people wanting to come visit for conventions? This does not shed a good light on Atlanta and the CDC that's right there. He says, I'm not trying to say leave Atlanta if you live in Atlanta. He says, I'm just saying, if you live in Atlanta and you're about to smash everything walking, you are a wild one. You are brave, he said. And those are just the numbers from the last few months. Those are brand new cases. So we're talking about 20,000 cases of HIV in Atlanta in the last 8 months, allegedly. But that doesn't talk about the cases before, the 2 years ago, and the cases that are going to be moving up. We can have an epidemic of HIV in Atlanta. This is not a scare tactic. These are from real TikTokers and YouTube folks who are putting this out on social media. I don't think it's to begrudge or besmidge Atlanta. Is just the truth, and we must manifest our truth in a positive and righteous way. This is unfortunate, and you also have to remember, in paying attention to your politics, Fannie Willis, U.S. Attorney Fannie Willis had that debacle with going after President Trump, and there's been a lot of chaos and disruption in her administration as the U.S. Attorney. But also with this big, beautiful bill that President Trump has pushed through the Congress and the Senate, where he is going to eliminate about 11.8 million people off of Medicaid. And they're also doing a reduction in what you can buy with your food stamps or your SNAP benefits. So we need to pay attention politically. So if 12 million people are going to be off of Medicaid, and if some of those individuals are HIV positive, they can't get their medications, they're uninsured, and that will balloon STD cases across the board. So you have Trump that's trying to reduce Medicaid, the number of people that qualify and get Medicaid, which I completely disagree with. Your health is your wealth. Reducing Medicaid beneficiaries is going to hurt the hospitals, is going to hurt urgent cares, is going to hurt residential assisted living and nursing homes for sure. They get paid by Medicaid and Medicare for the recipients and the residents that live in residential care facilities, assisted living, and nursing homes. So this is going to have a deleterious effect on our society as a whole. When you're talking about 12 million people will lose their Medicaid benefits, we're talking about low income and no income individuals. This is a sad commentary. We must wake up, pay attention, and once we wake up, we must stay woke about, in the real sense of woke, of your consciousness, about what is going on in our political arena, in our medical establishment. You cannot have a healthy society without certain systems in place. Healthy medical system, healthy school system, healthy fire department and police department, our public safety, healthy transportation system. There are several pillars that need to be fully intact in order for us to have a vibrant society. This HIV thing is a scary scenario. As I say, we talk about cancer all the time. We talk about youth gun violence. We talk about homeless and the opioid crisis. But if we're starting to see an uptick in HIV cases that allegedly over the years since the 90s had been suppressed and was on a downswing, if we're seeing now an uptick in HIV cases, that is not a good thing. And also remember, COVID is still here, and there's been a resurgence in people getting COVID. And so your health is your wealth. Pay attention to what's going on. This is the toughest time in the world today to try to date somebody. Stranger danger is all over the place, whether you're male or female. Vetting that right person. Everybody's chasing the bag by any means necessary. Our music is overly sexualized way too much, and I see our society heading in the wrong direction, especially for the people that are in their 20s, their late teens, their 20s, and even their 30s. We have to do something about this. The CDC is right there in Atlanta, and if there's been an uptick in these HIV cases of 20,000 in 8 months, something needs to happen. There is a panacea of destruction that is taking place throughout our entire country. Tell me what you think. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience.